Well, hello everybody. How you been? It's a beautiful day, isn't it? As you can see, my situation has changed significantly. I now use my study rather than my garden, and that's largely because of the rains anyway. Usually when I'm all set to record, it begins to rain or it just finished raining and everywhere is wet and all that. So that's the main reason for the change of, for the change in appearance. And so please, for those of you who are watching, I want you to, like, share, comment, subscribe. But above all, for those who are returning viewers, I want your views. What do you think? Do you like this space? If you like it, I'll keep it. It's certainly working for me because the lighting is excellent. I have fewer distractions. But then again, if you think it looks too formal, well then, whenever it's not raining, I'll go back to the garden. So, today I'm talking about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. Very fascinating Hollywood couple. If you are a movie buff, you know Will Smith. Tall, fine boy, black guy. One of those we thought was representing well, He tends to prefer sci-fi movies. If you're a bit observant, you'll notice that he tilts more towards sci-fi. Which is not a genre you'll find too many black actors involved in, but that's his preference, and he does a good job. We first came to know Will Smith in a comedy series, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which aired decades ago, but it was funny, it was nice, very much tailored along the Bill Cosby show kind of thing, elite black family with successful parents, children in school, doing well and all that. Shortly after that, he went into rap and had one or two albums here and there and so on. So Will Smith has been around for a while. He's been around for about 40 years. He's in his 50s. And still acting, by the way. Still acting and doing a good job. He is married to another actor, Jada Pinkett Smith. Very beautiful, in my opinion. Talented in her own right. Anyway, to cut to the chase, we were all sitting down minding our business when middle of last year, here you are struggling not to lose your mind with COVID restrictions and everything. All of a sudden we got bombarded, with a really nasty, jarring interview. That is easily one of the creepiest things I've ever seen in my life, and I've watched a number of horror movies. She has this show called The Red Table Talk, I think, where it's a very informal kind of thing where she invites guests into a space that's ostensibly her home, and she usually hosts it with her mother, who's another very beautiful woman. She doesn't look her age. And sometimes her daughter joins them, Willow. So sometimes you have this three generation of women talking to a guest. Sometimes it's just Jada and her mother. Sometimes it's Jada and her daughter. Sometimes they interview themselves, and so on and so forth. A very interesting concept. So this particular Red Table Talk, it was just Will and Jada giving us a much deeper insight into their family than most of us would have preferred. I mean, there's so many of us don't want to know these things, You can go ahead and be creepy all you want. We really don't want to know, But sometimes you're sitting there bored as hell, and something comes and you just find yourself watching it, and 5 minutes afterwards, you're wondering if there's any way you can unsee or unhear what you just exposed yourself to, but the damage is already done. 10 minutes of your life you'll never get back. I'm still shell-shocked. I'm not shell-shocked because of the admissions of infidelity. That's so common now that it's almost a non-issue, sadly. It's usually the men, but it seems as if wives are catching up. So it was not that Jada Pinkett had been involved, had had an affair. That was not it. That in itself is pretty sad. But that was not it. It was that she was being interviewed about this affair by her husband. You know, the same way they probably would have had this interview behind closed doors, you know, just two of them. Unfortunately, in this case, they chose to put cameras there and put it online for the world to see. And in all honesty, I've never felt as sorry for a man as I did for Will Smith. His acting skills failed him woefully. You know, he tried to sit there and you know, with a deadpan expression, he tried to throw in a joke or two, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. Essentially, Jada Pinkett sat there and admitted how when August Alsina was a house guest in their house, but August Alsina happens to be her first child's, well, maybe I should say acquaintance, but I think they're friends. Although there's a bit of an age gap of like maybe 5 or 6 years between August and her son. And August was living in their house at the time, trying to recuperate from some illness, and she was tending to him and all that. And somewhere along the line, they got into an entanglement, as she so famously put it. And my skin crawled. Again, I'm repeating that it was not the admission of an affair. It was the fact that she was admitting this affair in a very lackadaisical manner to her husband in front of the whole world. And he was sitting there and trying to take it on the chin and trying very hard to look unfazed. And it wasn't working. And I started asking myself, is this the comedy show marriage has been reduced to? These are two very big movie stars in their own right. They don't need to throw in any extra scandal to get clicks or to stay relevant. Will Smith is still coming out movie almost every 2 years with new movies that are blockbusters. What is this thing? Why are they doing this in front of the whole world? It would have been one thing to watch Jada Pinkett have her moment of madness with maybe an Oprah, you know, or some other person interviewing her. Because, I mean, well, to her credit, I'm trying to be kind. They were separated at the time. I think they were experimenting with going their separate ways. Maybe they were thinking about divorce and so on. She probably thought he had moved on with his life and felt she should do her own thing too. What I don't understand is her choice of the person to have an affair with, who essentially was her son's friend. The age gap, well, he was a house guest and also somebody well known to her husband. In fact, August had already granted an interview in which he claimed that Will Smith gave him the blessing to, you know, go ahead. Now, Jada in that talk laughs it off by saying that Will Smith would not have the power to give the go-ahead for something like that because she owns her body. I found that a bit watery of an explanation. It would have made more sense to me if she had said, no, that never happened. Will Smith, my husband, had no idea this was going on. But when she qualified it by saying that because she owns her body, first of all, in a proper marriage, you don't own your body. But maybe that's because I'm coming at it from a Christian perspective. Your body belongs to your husband just as his body belongs to you. Which is why most people are not excited when other people come to play with their property, quote unquote. Now, this happened last year, sometime around June or July 2020. Like I said, we're in the middle of struggling our way through the COVID madness, and then this happened. So why am I bringing it up now? Well, I think both Will and Jada have come under extreme attack. I think they're being scorned. I think Jada particularly has not been able to live it down. I think it's one of those things that seem like a brilliant decision at the time you're doing it, but then, with the benefit of hindsight, maybe not so much. So, in a bid to take the heat off Jada, that's the only reason I can ascribe to the sudden interview he granted a couple of days ago. Will has come out to help us to understand that at a point in their marriage, they both reached an agreement that since they couldn't make each other happy, they needed to go their separate ways. Well, not their separate ways. They needed to find happiness outside of each other. And if that involved third parties, it was okay too. And within that time, he also got involved with a number of women and so on. Yeah, when that interview was going on between the back and forth between Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, when it was going on, I said to myself, the only reason this man is sitting here making such a fool of himself is because he has probably put this woman through quite a bit. He has probably had his share of affairs, which he maybe didn't even really bother hiding, with a number of very inappropriate people and so on and so forth. And she has managed to grit her teeth through it. And now that she has chosen to stick the knife in, not only is she doing it, she's also chosen to twist it. And that's why this man is sitting here and trying to act all noble. He knows she's taking her pound of flesh, and he low-key feels that he deserves it, and that's why he's sitting there. So to me, it's not a surprise. I'm just wondering why he's finding it necessary to say anything at all. We're trying to forget. It's one of those things that should be ancient history by now. We've not been able to forget successfully. Somebody like me, every time I see Will Smith or his wife, that thing comes back into my mind. It has not been the flavor of the moment like I thought it would be, just your 5 minutes of fame and then it disappears. This, it rankles, it just keeps lingering on, maybe because it leaves such a sour taste in the mouth. But here you have it, Will Smith again trying to explain that he and his wife are essentially in an open marriage and they're never going to get divorced, bad marriage for life, as they so famously put it that day. And all I can say is, well, if you say that nobody else owes you happiness and you are unable to get that happiness from your spouse, what makes you think another person outside is going to give you that happiness? I don't know. So, I really kind of feel like the essence of marriage is one of the big things about marriage is commitment. Staying committed to each other, doing things as a team. You're supposed to become one flesh. You're supposed to become one, essentially, which is why polygamy is not really popular with those of us that come from a Christian background and so on. But here you are, you have an open marriage, you'll never get divorced. Maybe is it because of the assets? You don't want to spend time, going through the hard work of splitting up the assets. What is it really? Is it because, well, in Will Smith's case, I kind of get it. He's been divorced before. I really don't know what his first wife did that was so wrong, because I kind of don't think... I'm sorry, I don't like judging people by, by a happenstance, but I just don't think Jada is an upgrade. I don't know. This is not an upgrade, Will. Please. What is the problem? A second divorce will not kill you, and you do not have to remarry subsequently. Not everybody is cut out for marriage. You tried it the first time, for whatever reason, it wasn't working for you. You moved on to Jada, it's definitely not working now. Maybe you're one of those people who just, who should be free. to explore, and do your thing and everything. And maybe you should be, because this your open marriage thing, you know what happens? People wind up deeply hurt. Deeply, deeply, massively hurt.